Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to go over the do's and don'ts of an InfoSec or cybersecurity interview. So, the most important thing to consider is the way you look, your first impression. So, before you even speak to anybody, you're going to be judged based on what you're wearing. Now, I personally don't think there's any issues with tattoos or beards or whatever the case may be. I've seen that in previous videos. So find a company that fits in that aspect, but what you're wearing will matter. So if you show up, whether it's on video or it's in person, and you're wearing a t-shirt and jeans, or you're maybe wearing a polo and some cargo pants, you know, that's not really the impression you want to set. Um, if you don't know the company, if you haven't asked about the dress code, it's best as a male to wear a suit and tie. It's best as a female to probably wear a dress or even a suit as well. Now, if you have asked previously, you can also go business casual, right? Sometimes that's really the attire of the day, especially if you're going for like a technical role or something along those lines. Then there's nothing wrong with wearing a nice button down and some slacks and dress shoes. But be mindful of the position you're applying for and the company you're going to. Again, at no time in an interview process would I recommend a polo or a t-shirt and jeans or cargo pants or something like that. It's just not something I would advise. I would think that it shows a lack of, willingness to impress. All right. Again, first impressions are everything. Next, let's get into some of the questions that you should or shouldn't answer. All right. And by answer, I mean technical questions. So, if you get asked certain things, whether it be about port security or social engineering, don't lie. Don't give them a BS answer. If you know the answer, say it and be confident in it. If you don't know the answer, say that as well. All right. Say, I don't know the answer right now. I remember researching it. I can look it up. I can find the answer. It's off the top of my head. I can't remember. There's nothing wrong with that. It is impossible to know everything in this field. Impossible. It's impossible to remember it all. Yeah, I mean, there's some people out there that could, but the vast majority of the population isn't going to be able to. I'm not saying it can't be done by some select individuals, but the majority of them won't. Next is, if I have interviewed with companies through video, especially where the entire job is going to be remote, where they allow you to look up the answer. And the reason for that is they want to see how fast you can find the answer and find the correct answer. Okay. If you're able to do that, then it makes sense that, okay, we know this person knows how to find an answer. They may not know it right away, but they can find it. And then, if you're giving BS answers and you're confident in it, yeah, great, you're confident, but you still don't know what you're talking about. If you have a certification, if you have, if you've said you have knowledge in a particular field or aspect of the field and you're giving completely wrong answers, then it doesn't matter how confident you are, you're still wrong. And you're fully wrong at that point because you're sticking to your guns and trying to be confident. If you're corrected during an interview process, I know I've been on interviews, years ago as I was getting out of the Army, and, it was, hey, do you know what's wrong with this code? Well, is it this? I wasn't 100% sure at the time. Now I know. But at that particular point in time, it looked like I knew what it was, but at the same time I asked him, I was like, look, I don't even know what language this is, so I don't know generally what's wrong. Mind you, it was command injection in PHP, but at that time, I had not been doing my research on PHP and command injection and things like that. Web vulnerabilities were still very, very new to me. So, I've grown from that, and now I could see it and know the answer, but back then I didn't. So, and I told him that. And, let's be honest, I didn't get the job, and rightfully so. A lot of the questions they asked, I didn't have the opportunity to look up, but at the same time, I didn't know them. But I wasn't afraid to tell them I didn't know because honestly, I wasn't a fit. These people for the job I was particularly going for, they knew what they were doing. And so, they it wasn't a position where they could really afford to take the time to train you. So I didn't blame them. Hey, more power to them. Next, let's get into some questions you should ask. All right. If you are going there and you have no questions in mind, whether about the people you're interviewing with or the company, then you're wrong. All right. Keep in mind, these people, especially in this career field in InfoSec and cybersecurity, they're going to research you. All right. They're going to Google your name. They're going to go on LinkedIn. They're going to go on Twitter. They're going to go on Facebook and see what information you have out there. They're going to find out everything they can. All right. Plus, they already have your resume in front of you. So they have all this information about you. So do your research too. All right. Research the company, what their growth potential is, what their ability is to actually last long term. All right. The people interviewing you, find something you can connect with them on. If this is a company you really want to work for, then there's a lot of times it's going to come down to the team dynamic. All right. How well you're going to fit within the culture of that organization and of that team. So if you have nothing in common with them, whether it be, you were in the military and they were too, or you like the same sports, or you're interested in the same type of security constructs, all right? So maybe the person you're interviewing with developed some stuff or has posted a lot of stuff on SQLI and, web-based attack vectors. Know that, because then you can talk to them about it, all right? Especially if that's something you love too. So be passionate when you're talking to these people, all right? If this is a career field you love, then you should know, you should be able to express that passion in the way you speak, all right? And then following on that, don't hesitate to email them afterwards, all right? If you get done with the interview and you think everything went well and it all went great and you were passionate, you knew your answers, you weren't afraid to tell them I don't know, but I can find it, whatever the case may be, you felt you looked presentable, go ahead and email after. Make sure you get their business card and a way to contact them, send them an email and thank them for their time. Because let's be honest, as much as it's time out of your day, it's time out of theirs also, all right? So as you're growing and learning in this field, you also have to understand the business aspect of, guess what? These people still have a job to do, all right? Whether they're a director or a senior architect or whatever the case may be, they still have work to do. So it is taking time out of their day that they're going to have to then follow up later on and maybe even stay later or, come in earlier the next day to get this work done. Just as it's taking time out of your day, it's taking time out of theirs. So thank them for their time. And I guarantee you, they're going to be more receptive of that. Now, at the same time, if you're not interested, maybe you felt, even though the interview went well, it's just not a cultural fit for you, or, maybe the job just isn't what you thought it was going to be, don't waste their time. Again, email them, get a hold of them and say, hey, look, thank you for the time, but I'd like to no longer be considered for this position. Though I do like the company and I feel it has a lot of room for growth, I don't feel it's going to be a fit for what I'm looking for in my career. However, if you have a position doing X, Y, and Z in the future, I would gladly, come back in for an interview and hopefully be a fit for that position. So don't be afraid to do things like that. All right. Companies see that as a sign of maturity and a sign of growth, and that, you're not going to waste their time. All right. And then finally, going back to while you're in the interview and you're asking questions, there are a few questions you should really ask. What are the training opportunities? All right. So are you going to be able to grow in your knowledge and in, your passion? Are you going to be able to, if you don't have things like, a degree or an OSCP or, certain SAN certs, are you going to be able to get those along the way? All right. Now understand that be aware of that. Yes, you'll have to do training for whatever the platform is that you're going to be working with. All right. Doesn't matter. All right. But by being willing to do those things, they will at the same time, if they're a good company to work for, be able to provide you that training that you want as well that'll help you grow with the company. It's a give and take. Also, don't be afraid to ask about promotion potential, all right? Because you want them, and honestly, you want to show loyalty and show that long-term growth. If you see the company going places, show that loyalty to the company and be like, hey, look, I'd love to be here long-term. What's my opportunity to grow within the company? All right, so don't be afraid of those things. So, as far as don'ts, like I said, don't wear t-shirts, don't wear to an interview, don't wear jeans, don't wear polos and cargo pants, dress to impress. That first impression is going to be everything. When it comes to questions not to ask, don't ask questions like, what do you make? All right, on the spot right there, you're going to get an offer later on. If you're a fit for the company, you're going to get a salary offer. Don't ask on that, at that point in time what the salary is, just because you want something to, you always want to think about it, all right, and really think over your options. So if they give you an offer maybe the next day or later on that day, you can consider it and then go back with either accept the offer or say, hey, I think it's worth a little bit more. Don't be afraid to do things like that. And then also, don't BS, don't lie. If you don't know an answer, say it. All right, that's very important. You don't want to lie to them at all. And if you do have more questions, have them written down with you, and don't be afraid to ask, right? Don't be afraid to ask what the, if you're going, depending on the role you're going for, if it's security engineering or network security, let's say, don't be afraid to ask about their IPSs, their IDSs, and their firewalls. And even in that platform, what are they using for SIM or for an MDR service or whatever else like that, so that you know what you'd be sending logs to. All right, so you know what you're configuring, the security of. If you are going for more a MSSP type role or a SOC type role, ask about the SIM platform or what technologies you're going to be using there. All right, because it's going to be completely different. If it's a overall security role, understand what the host anti-malware solution is, or again, if they're using an MDR or an EDR or a SOC, MSSP or SIM or whatever the case may be, ask these questions up front, because then if you get the job and maybe it's something you didn't know, you can go back home and research it. You can learn about the platform, so that maybe you get a second interview, you can go in there and be like, hey, I know about this, this, and this. And you've done your research. Maybe you've played with it in a lab. You've set up that lab environment. And you're like, look, I did the interview. I can't. You get a second interview. Like, look, I sat down, studied everything. I've put labs together. I've been able to work with the platform, and so it shows that you're willing to really get that job and you want to impress them. So don't be afraid of those things. Other than that, I mean, it's not a hard process. Just be confident. Be professional, and have your questions ready. Don't lie or anything like that. So hopefully this video finds you well. Hopefully it is informative. So please subscribe at the bottom. Leave your comments about whatever you think about the video. And if you have anything else to add for interviews, do's and don'ts, please, I beg of you, put it in the comments. Let other people see it. All right. I'll even add it into the description as edits or whatever the case may be. But these are the big things, and I hope that they help you out here in the future.